Three, two. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. Elizabeth Robinson. Liz, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. If you don't mind me asking, where are you from right now?
I am phoning in from Silverthorne, Colorado, which is about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Denver and pretty close to the mountain resort of Breckenridge. So, yeah, just out here in the mountain area of
Nice.
Colorado.
Did you grow up there or?
No, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in a small town called Alton that's kind of like a suburb of St. Louis. And yeah, I'm the youngest of six kids.
Oh, wow.
So had a little bit of a chaotic childhood with that, but also a very medically based childhood because my parents are both general doctors. And four of the six of us kids are also doctors of some sort.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then tell us a little bit about your past, your present. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I grew up obviously with my parents as doctors, and it's funny because my mom in particular would always say, "Yeah, if you want to be a doctor, you should really look into dentistry because dentists are lucky they don't have to deal with all of the insurance issues that doctors have to deal with." And so it's funny because that was true for the most part when I was a kid, but then by the time I actually became a dentist, insurance has completely infiltrated dentistry,
Mhm.
and now it's something that dentists spend a lot of their time talking about and dealing with. So hopefully that might improve a little bit in the future. But yeah, other than that, I basically I was honed in on field hockey as my main sport in high school. And so went to Stanford University for my undergrad and played field hockey there. So that was an awesome experience. I loved being there and playing hockey because it's sunny all the time and you pretty much have to be outside for 3 hours a day if you're playing varsity sports. So it was a great place to play field hockey during college. And then actually, I added a fifth year at Stanford to do a master's degree. And the master's degree was focused mostly on medical device development.
Mm.
So basically, this curriculum that I did had students from all different schools, like the business school, the med school, and the law school, would all come together and be given unmet needs in medicine and then have to develop a product or device that would meet that need and go through the process of what it would be like to bring that product to market. So that's kind of how I got started in having a big interest in medical devices and kind of like the startup and medical device industry. Um, but yeah, after that, I still stuck with my, goal to go to dental school. So I went to dental school at University of Pennsylvania, and that was great. I loved being in Philadelphia for dental school. It was nice to go back to the East Coast since I always thought I might go to college on the East Coast, but I ended up going to the West Coast.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was there in Philly, and yeah, loved it. I met some great people. And then after dental school, went back to the West Coast and practiced in San Francisco for 5 years and also did a GPR at the VA Hospital of San Francisco. And then after San Francisco, I moved to Denver and I have been in Denver and now the mountains for about 4 years.
Oh, wow. So 4 years. And you've
Yeah,
been an associate for how long?
I've been an associate for 10 years.
Okay. How is that? Like what are some takeaways that you've learned as far as when it comes to being an associate?
Yeah, I think, being an associate, some of the advantages are that you don't have to worry about all of the business aspect of running the practice, which is, that is a large load to take on. And yeah, it's a ton of responsibility. So it is nice in the respect that especially if you find a practice that's a really good fit, you can go to work, do the dentistry, and not really worry much about the business part. Some of the disadvantages, though, and I think you start to feel this as you keep going in your career, is that you can't really make decisions about how the practice is run or what technology the practice is going to invest in and kind of what the workflows of the office are. And so I think that's something I was starting to see, because most of my career, I've been pretty lucky because I've worked at practices that are pretty high tech. Like most of them have had an intraoral scanner. And so I think I didn't really realize what an advantage that was until I practiced a little bit at practices that were a little bit more old school and didn't have an intraoral scanner. Because then you kind of have to go backwards
Mhm.
uh, in, the progress you've made and kind of learning how to use the intraoral scanner and learning all the workflows that come with that.
Wow. Okay. So then you've has any time in that moment when you were in Stanford and then when you were also in Philly and then, San Francisco, even right now in Colorado, right? It's never been a moment where you're like, I want to own my own practice.
Yeah, I think I have had an interest in owning my own practice, but sometimes I think if I were to do that, I would want to take it in a little bit more of a unique direction in some way. Like my thought of owning my own practice would be maybe do something where you're doing Botox and then just cosmetic type of dentistry, like maybe just clear aligners
Mhm.
and Botox. And it's because to me, it's like I like to do things that are more innovative and creative and not kind of continue to do the same thing that everyone else has already done.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of where my ambition would be with owning something of my own, like trying
Gotcha.
something new. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's eventually it's gonna happen or
Possibly. I think right now I'm kind of trying to learn a little bit about different areas. Like, I think I've learned a lot working at all kinds of different practices about the different ways you could run a practice and just the different focuses you can take and what you really want to bring to your practice. But and then now I'm working at Dandy, so I think I'm learning a lot about what it's like to start a startup, like a tech startup, and then
Mhm.
what goes into that, and creating a really large company, and kind of learning about all the departments that exist within that and have to work together to achieve a goal. So I think right now I'm still kind of just like gathering information and trying to learn as much as I can to see, where I want to take my career in the future.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh, so real quick, I know you were how many would you say practices did you work for?
Yeah, I worked for two main long-term practices. And then after COVID, things were a little crazy for probably about a year for me. And so I think after COVID, I was probably working at like two or three practices kind of part-time
Mhm.
over the course of like a year or two. So probably, yeah, probably about five practices I've had experience in those
Gotcha.
five different types of practices. Yeah.
So from those five, what would you say you would have loved to seen more of? What were some things where you're like, I never want to do that to my team or my practice or anything? And then what were some things where you're like, that system is brilliant. I want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I do think that the more old school way of running a practice where you're not using a lot of technology, like if you're not using an intraoral scanner, that can be difficult to kind of get your practice excited about things. And because when you do have an intraoral scanner or even bring in other technology where the assistants or the hygienists can use this technology and really get involved in being a part of patient treatment, that's really going to drive engagement from your practice. So I think the practices that go more high tech uh, find that everyone on the staff is a lot more fulfilled because they can kind of like take ownership of different parts of just like different parts of running the dental office. Like in most of the practices where we had an intraoral scanner, I just prep the crown, and then the rest of the appointment is really up to the assistant. Like they're gonna scan the tooth, and they make the temporary, and so they are really like a large part of that appointment. Whereas in the old system, really it's mostly the doctor doing a lot of the work, and yeah, mostly it's just more on the doctor to make sure everything is is done correctly. So yeah, I would say that's one big thing. And yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, just also for hygienists, same thing, patients, I really love when they see this high technology, like they find it so fascinating that we're able to take a scan of their whole mouth in 1 minute. And they love looking at the scan and just like being able to see what's going on in their mouth. And
Mhm.
so, it's becoming more and more of a regular thing for hygienists to just automatically take a full mouth scan of their patients. And then they have a lot more resources to educate the patient and just kind of have a real talk with them about how things are looking in their mouth.
Gotcha. So was that like your area of expertise? What was your area of expertise during like working here?
Yeah, I would say I had a pretty heavy focus on cosmetic cases. Most of the practices that I worked at, we had, yeah, a pretty high emphasis on cosmetics. So that mostly meant doing a lot of Invisalign cases. And one office I worked at, we did a lot of cases where we gave people veneers, but we created them out of composite, which is really kind of awesome because you don't need to cut any tooth structure away. You're just adding composite on there, instead of like drilling tooth structure away. And so I really liked that because I like to be kind of like conservative and not, not touch the teeth if we don't need to. Um, but yeah, mostly that was my focus. And other than that, I think most dentists kind of know that a lot of their day is going to be bread and butter dentistry. So fillings and crowns and some extractions here and there and some implant restorations here and there too.
Gotcha. So you were mainly using digital dentistry in the practices that way.
Yeah, like mainly I was using the iTero to do Invisalign when I was in San Francisco. And then when I was in Denver, a lot of my intraoral scanner experience was with the CEREC machine. And there we would, scan the tooth and then design the tooth in office. And then we would mill that tooth in office and would be able to deliver a same day crown to the patient.
Gotcha. How would you sell Invisalign back in the day? Or like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Invisalign, well, one big sales thing for Invisalign is actually the intraoral scanner
mhm.
because, and one of my friends, she said what she does, she takes the full mouth scan and lets the patient kind of sit in the room because now the scanners often have simulators where you can see how your teeth look now and how they would look if you were to do Invisalign. And you can kind of just toggle back and forth between how they are now and how they would look ideally. And a lot of times, yeah, if you just let the patient sit there and look at that, then that can itself can be a big seller for Invisalign because they say, wow, like I could look like that would be so much better. Whereas if
Yeah.
you don't have that, you're kind of just using fuzzy concepts of your teeth could look a little better. And of course, you don't ever want to insult the patient, but to really be able to show them what it would look like. And some softwares even let them simulate that onto a picture of the patient, I believe. So that can really show them like what the end result would be.
Yeah. It's like technology, especially digital technology, it's making it not just easier for like the dentist, right? But at the same time for like the patient to like see what's happening, what's going on,
Yeah.
what could be kind of thing. It's better for selling, right? I would say. So
Yes.
that's interesting. Yeah. And
Definitely
then
better for education and selling.
yeah, I like that a lot. And then so I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You eventually went to Dandy, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, I pretty much always had this dream of going to work at a startup in a sense. Partly because I had done the master's degree focused on the medical devices, that kind of got my interest started. And then when I was working in San Francisco, it's like all my patients are working at startups. And it just sounds so like interesting and kind of fun to work with your peers on these issues and projects and try to really like bring something new to the world. And so I think that dream has always been in the back of my head. And after COVID happened and things had been a little crazy, and I think I really started to feel like I think I've kind of reached my limit with like feeling like I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in my dental career as a dentist. And I really am looking for something new and something more creative and innovative. So I kind of have been searching for things over the last few months. And yeah, I came across Dandy. I had heard a little bit about what Dandy was, but then in my job search, I came across Dandy, and it really like represented the perfect company that I was looking for, because it's a tech company and it's a startup. It's a very large startup because there's about 900 employees. But it's also, it's a dental tech company. So it's somewhere where I can bring my dental experience and actually be helpful to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold up, Liz. Dandy has 900 employees?
Yes.
What, like how, what is the situation there? Why?
Well, there's like a lot of different things that need to come together to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I guess I'll just explain kind of what Dandy does.
Yeah.
Because so Dandy is a full service digital dental lab. They right now there's five main dental lab products that they make, which is crowns, dentures, implant crowns, clear aligners, and night guards. And soon we'll be adding sleep apnea devices too.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing also. But
Mhm.
yeah, and so basically, whereas in the past, many a dentist would usually maybe use like two or three or even four labs, maybe one where they send their crowns, another one they send their dentures to, maybe they do, use Invisalign for their clear liners. So this Dandy is bringing all of those lab products under one roof. And the advantage is that, you don't have to coordinate, that communication with all of those different labs. And they're, ensuring a high quality product for all of those different products too. So, but I think like the real advantage of what Dandy is bringing is that they provide so much support to the dentist, because it's basically 900 employees all devoted to making this more seamless and easier experience for the dentist at the end of the day. So yeah, they have tons of support for the dentist. Like when a dentist signs up with Dandy, first of all they send you a free scanner. So that takes the whole element of which scanner am I going to buy, how much does it cost, all of that research, that takes all of that out of the equation for the dentist. And then they also don't have to pay anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 to buy a scanner. So they send them a free scanner. And then also when you sign up with Dandy, you'll have an account manager who helps you get everything set up. You'll have many training sessions with a live trainer where they go over how to use the scanner and how to scan for every different procedure in a live virtual meeting. And then also they have a lot of support, like live scan review, to have someone there while you're scanning your first patients to make sure that everything's going okay. So they can tell you, yes, that scan looks good, or no, we need to touch up this area or that area. And then also offices can they can chat with a support person at Dandy and whenever they have questions about anything. So instead of having to call in, talk to a customer service agent, then have them, transfer you to someone else. And it could take a long time to get to the person you need to get to at other companies. At Dandy, it's like just open a chat box and you can have all your questions answered just like in a chat. So they make a
Mhm.
lot of things like really simple.
Yeah, I think it was like Ashley or Barry we were talking to, where he's like, it's really cool how because they use it for their practice, Dandy, and he's saying how it's really cool how like as you're taking the scan, somebody's watching it with you from
Yeah.
Dandy, and they're telling you like, hey, redo it, right? Instead of like, oh, you send it off, then you're gonna have to redo it, it gets sent back. You know what I mean? Like a whole
Yes.
type of situation. Man,
So,
so 900 people
mhm.
devoted to
Yeah,
just
because there's like engineers and there's salespeople and there's product design leads. There's tons of lab techs that work there, like all of these super experienced lab techs that, were previously at other labs, but came over to Dandy. And so they lead different areas that they specialize in. So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
there's a lot of things that need to be done, but it's really neat because, the engineers are always trying to improve that engineering end, and the trainers are always trying to improve the training. And so everyone is always trying to make things better and better. And I think that's what really sets it apart, because at the older types of labs, it's like, no insult to them. It's not easy work, but I just don't think they have like the bandwidth to create that customer support and like this amazing customer experience for the offices that they work with.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
then, Liz, what do you do there?
Yeah, so I probably actually gonna change my title soon, because my title is senior launch trainer. So I the idea is that I would also be helping with those live trainings, but right now I'm focusing on making self-service training videos, which would basically be videos that anyone that uses the Dandy scanner, anyone could watch these videos if they need a refresher on the training that they got, or say they don't want to, like, usually the first training that we give, which we also give for free, like some other companies charge for training on their scanner. And so
Hmm.
that's another nice perk, is we give this training for free. Um, but this is if, they get their scanner and they're not able to set aside the 3 hours that we usually ask them to set aside with the whole office. That requires them sometimes to kind of shut down the office or come in on their day off to do a 3 hour. Often it only takes 2 hours really, but sometimes it takes three. And so the idea is to have another resource for them to get their training, if they wanted to just get started right away and watch the training videos instead of having that live training. Or as a refresher, after they have the live training, they can go back and just watch those, fast forward to whichever part they needed the refresher on. So that's the main thing that I'm working on right now.
Nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's going to be good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's dive into, I'm going to need both sides of those brains right now. Like of your, so let's dive into the part where let's focus on like the business aspect, right? Not so much the clinical side where we're working every day. How long has it been since you stopped actually working on the clinical?
Just a month.
Just
Yes.
okay. So it's fresh. It's fresh in your mind. If you don't mind me asking, what were the procedures where you're like, hey, I just don't want to, I don't want to do that. And then some where that was like the one procedure that you loved.
Yeah, I mean, I love, just like, I like doing cosmetic restorations, like, well, no, yeah, the procedures I love are if a tooth comes in and it's pretty much broken off at the gum line, but we're able to well, sometimes we might put a post in there and build it back up, and we're able to save it and put a crown on it. That's probably my favorite thing, because it's just like really functional dentistry, and we were able to save this tooth, because I really like to keep the teeth there. I don't like to pull the teeth out. So I'm kind of holistic in that way.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, and I like cosmetics. And yeah, I would say like some areas that don't have a lot of experience with root canals. So I think I'm like a lot of dentists who just are like, no root canals for me.
No, okay, I get you. And
Yeah.
then what advice would you want to give to practice owners who are looking to bring on an associate?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just really important that to have the same kind of vision and the same priorities. Um, I think that practices really do vary a lot, um, in the way that they do things. In terms of, some practices are very high end, so low number of patients per day and really high quality service. And often they'll be charging more for those services. So that then they can still, make a good living or pay for all of their expenses. And some offices are like super high volume, have the assistants do as much work as they can, so that the doctor only needs to do what the things that the doctor absolutely needs to do. And so I think that, what you're signing up for can really vary depending on what type of office you're walking into. And so I think just like it's important for an associate to really find out what they are looking for and which of those models works for them. Um, and so that like their vision of what they're looking for really aligns with what the practice owner is looking for.
How could like a practice owner make it easier though to like let them know, you know what I mean? Instead of like, all right, we're trying this associate out, you're building a great relationship with them, but they're still not doing what you want them to do. Maybe something's different, something's off. How would you prefer like a practice owner, I guess, handles that, makes it more transparent or from the get-go?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think that it can be a little bit brutal to shadow sometimes, especially if you're an experienced dentist. But sometimes I think if you shadowed for a day or two, you can really you can get the idea of how the office runs, and if you if you gel with the way that things are run there, and if it's a high volume or a low volume office. And that sometimes might be a good idea, because sometimes I think it can be hard to part ways if you feel like you already signed on and you already committed, you don't want to let them down. But sometimes it you may not have to realize like, oh, this wasn't actually what I was looking for. So
Mm. So the
yeah.
shadowing, right? That's
Yeah.
good. I like that. Okay. All right. So then what can a dentist do today to improve their marketing or their business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most of my friends, I've seen a lot of my friends start their own practice. And I think marketing is such a huge thing, especially for a practice that's starting from scratch. Um, Rather than, if you're buying a really well established practice, you're kind of buying a book of patients that may already be really loyal. But for someone that's more of a startup, marketing is obviously a huge thing for them. And I know one of my old coworkers, I think she said she even invests as much as $14,000 a month into marketing. But she is a huge advocate for it because, I mean, she is a super successful startup.
Mhm.
And she kind of, I think she really did her research into which marketing companies work really well. And she kept track of, which ones are really bringing me patients, and not only just patients, but really high quality patients, like patients with a lot of needs. And yeah, just who patients that may be open to having a bigger case done. So yeah, I think that just finding marketing agents or companies that have a really proven track record is an important thing to do, and doing your research there. And yeah, I mean, just going back to digital dentistry, I think if you have digital dentistry, I think patients are super aware that that's out there now, and they want that comfort that they can just have their mouth scanned and they don't have to sit there and take a million impressions. So if you are offering that, I think that is definitely something to market and make sure patients know that you have that at your office.
How can you market that like to the general public kind of thing? Like
Yeah,
what's the
I mean,
message?
obviously that's something we work on a little bit too, because we're always trying to market Dandy. And these days I think things like Instagram and TikTok are so big.
Mhm.
And we were looking at a TikTok the other day where a girl, she just scanned her own mouth in like 30 seconds. And we were like, wow, that's a great advertisement. Like, she just showed us how easy it is. You can even just take this scanner and just scan your own mouth in 30 seconds. So I think things like that, just like showing just how easy it is, and what a good, accurate, you know, picture of the mouth it creates in such a short time, uh, is a great way to just let patients know like how far the technology has come.
Yeah. When you see like people who are or practices, right? Like the Dandy customers who are utilizing Dandy, what are some of those who are some of those customers? You don't have to give me names or anything, but like what are they doing that's like, oh, they're advertising it beautifully, right? Like the way it works, the way they're utilizing it. What are they doing?
Um, let's see. I mean, I don't know if that's an area I've delved into a ton, but because I think at Dandy, we have kind of two different types of customers. We have some that we're already using a scanner, and so they're already super experienced with it, but they
Mm,
want to, keep adding more scanners and or trying a different type of scanner. And then some people have been going totally old school, and they want to, they want to introduce scanning into their office. So yeah, those are kind of a mix of our customers, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I just think I think most offices are just really trying to step into the modern world and use TikTok and Instagram, because that's where everyone's getting their information about everything these days. So that's kind of like where the money's at.
yeah, I like that. It's almost like the 30-second one where they like
Yes.
I like that one. I also like I don't know, like maybe a practice owner or like the assistant or whatever can kind of like encourage them, like, yeah, share that. You know what I mean? If they don't want to share it, then it's like, we'll fix it, right? But if they're like, oh yeah, that's how my mouth looks, cool, share it, right? Type of thing. It looks, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things you can I feel like you can market the digital side of your practice a lot, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Or like patient testimonials are always really valuable, I think, too. Um, yeah, or just showing how the patient can get more engaged in their own dental health. They can really just like see what's going on inside their mouth and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's always really powerful for advertising the scanner. So
Gotcha. What, Liz, would you like to see more from a dentist today?
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's kind of similar to what we've already been talking about, but I think dentists need to kind of keep being open to change. A lot of dentists, like I mentioned, they'll put off bringing this new technology into their office for two reasons. Like one, just the expense of it. Um, like I said, those scanners, they could cost anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000. And the other big thing that is hard for dentists is just getting their team and their whole office on board with the new technology, because everyone's used to doing everything the old way. And
Hmm.
so sometimes even if the doctor is ready to learn a new system, they're not sure if they are going to be able to train their whole office on learning this whole new system.
Hmm.
So that can definitely be a huge crutch. And I think Dandy has really honed in on that and solving that problem by bringing their whole training aspect to the table, and making sure that they ensure that these offices, they will be trained. They can ask for as much additional training as they need, to make sure the offices can really use this scanner and incorporate it into their daily routine. So
What
yeah,
what scanner do you guys get for free?
we give the Trios 3 shape scanner to offices. We
Okay,
did a lot of research into like kind of the top 5 scanners, I would say. And that is the one that we found was the best in terms of quality and accuracy, but also kind of like meeting the price point that we think was like, the best.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
has to make sense too at the same time, you know. I get
Yeah.
you, I get you. All right, and then one of the last questions I want to ask you is right now, what do you love, absolutely love about dentistry?
Yeah. Yeah. What the thing I love about dentistry and I do kind of miss is just, just the social aspect of dentistry. I am super social. I love to talk to people all day. So that is definitely a really fulfilling part of dentistry is, if you think about it, you're really just chatting with people all day. And then in between, you might drill and fill their teeth a little bit.
Hmm.
So that is really awesome. And I think that, you know, patients, they really come to appreciate a dentist who has that great bedside manner, but they also can do the work efficiently, and they, get good results, and they're able to keep the patient really comfortable and just make everything really seamless. So, when I definitely think it's great when the patients leave and they look at you and say thank you, and you can tell that they are like truly grateful for what you've done for them. Um, but yeah, and then also once you have that relationship, it's nice to just kind of like keep building it, and it feels like you're just catching up with your friend when
Mhm.
you are seeing your patients as time goes on. So that's my favorite part. And yeah, I think you know, maybe someday I'll add a day of dentistry back in just to kind of like fill that void a little bit, but we'll see. I'm really enjoying just kind of like focusing on working with Dandy right now and just giving it my all and like really diving into it.
Okay, nice. Awesome. So any final pieces of advice you want to give us or any final words?
Um, Yeah, well, I would guess I would just say like if you are like me and you have a curiosity about, maybe doing something a little bit different as a dentistry, I think there are like tons of different avenues you could take. And it does take a little bit of research because I think a lot of people come across that problem. It's like, what else can a dentist do? It doesn't seem like there's much out there. But yeah, it just takes a little bit of research and persistence to find some other routes that you can go on. And other than that, I would just say if offices are interested in going digital, they should definitely give Dandy a try. I mean, the scanner is free, so no excuses there, and we provide tons of support for all of the offices we work with. So I think it's a really positive experience and can bring a new element and a new kind of like fun thing to do with your office if you aren't going digital at all so far. So.
Nice. Awesome, Liz. Thank you so much for being with me on this episode. But before we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, let's see. I have my email address is you could either email me, and my email address is elizabethrobinson@meetdandy.com. Or I'm on Instagram. I'm Dr. Lizzie Rob 84, I believe. So yeah, Dr. LIZZYROB 84. Yeah.
Nice. So, guys, that's all going to be in the show notes below. If you want to check it out, reach out to Liz a little bit more. And Liz, thank you so much for being with me on this episode, and we'll hear from you
Yeah.
soon.
Thanks for having me. All right. Bye.